Hi everyone, happy Valentine's Day. Tonight we're going to be making some infused treats that are super simple and I think everybody will love. We're making some stuffed mushrooms and a chocolate martini. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to take these mushrooms. I'm just using baby Bellas. You can use white mushrooms, cremini mushrooms, any small to medium mushrooms. But you could also do this with like 2 large portobello mushrooms. If you want to make like portobello steaks, you could easily do that too. So I'm just going to take these mushrooms and hollow them out. I'm going to give them like a little wipe down first so you can wipe off all the excess soil or anything remaining on them. Ooh, so I'm just going to wipe these down and get them all prepped. Okay, so now that my mushrooms are cleaned and prepped, I'm gonna take the center of the mushroom, the button, and just kind of pop that out and then clear away and make some space for our stuffing. And I just put that like right into a mixing bowl that you can add back into the stuffing. So you want it to be like a little bowl. And it's okay if it's not perfect because we're gonna put the stuffing like kind of over the edges and it's gonna have cheese in it. So you can just like let the cheese and all of the stuffing speak for itself. It doesn't have to be beautiful and perfect. It'll look great by the time we're done with it. So you just kind of want to make a little well for all of the stuffing and goodness you're gonna put inside there. So I'm gonna keep cleaning these out and come back when they're all done. Okay, so we have our little mushrooms all emptied out. And of course you're gonna lose some mushrooms on the way. Some are just gonna break because mushrooms are delicate. So I just gonna add them into the mix and then I'm gonna chop these up and then also chop up some onions and garlic to go into the stuffing. And I like to add a lot of garlic because I'm a garlic girl, but also I like these to kind of taste like vegan escargot. And if you've ever had escargot, it's really just a carrier for butter, garlic, and herbs. And that is really like the joy in life. Everything is a carrier for butter, garlic, and herbs. So I am gonna do a lot of garlic, but I recommend 2 to 3 cloves to start. And then you can add as much as you like. These are for you. And it doesn't matter if it's date night because don't date someone who doesn't like garlic. I mean, come on. Again, garlic is the joy of life. So I'm gonna cut up a couple of these cloves. But for my 9 to 10 mushroom caps, I'm probably actually only going to use 2 to 3 cloves. So start with 2. You can always add more. And I'm gonna get these chopped up. Okay, so we have a couple of cloves of garlic all chopped up pretty finely. And then I called for a white onion, but I have a red onion. Use whatever kind of onion you like. And I'm gonna use half of this onion. And this is my trick so you don't cry off your eye makeup before date night. Put a little wet paper towel on your cutting board and that pulls away those onion juices that make you cry over to the wet paper towel and not your eyes. So I'm gonna give this a small dice. And again, with the onion, you can use as much or as little as you like. This is all to your taste. I always say cook how you cook, eat how you eat. Like I will make a recipe vegan, but if you just have regular butter on hand, or if that works better for your diet, use that. So I think I'm going to end up using 1/4 of an onion for my just few mushrooms, but there's a whole container if you want to use more mushrooms. I would say go for more onion, but this is about 10 mushrooms that are going to be stuffed. So I'm just going to use 1/4 of this medium-ish size onion, and that's going to go in with my stuffing mix. And so next is we're going to make the actual stuffing to go in the mushrooms. Okay, so we have a pan out for our stuffing, and we're going to set our oven to preheat at 350. Okay, I'm gonna start with 1.5 tablespoons of vegan butter. Again, use whatever kind of butter you have or you like. And I have this on a medium to low heat. And I'm just gonna melt this butter down a little low and slow, just because I don't want it to burn or brown too quickly. While that's melting, I'm gonna add 1 cup of water to 1 vegetable bouillon cube and make like a bouillon to add to this. You could also use veggie broth, about 1 cup. Okay, the butter is just about melted, and I'm going to add my garlic to the butter. Along with a pinch of salt, about 1/4 of a teaspoon. And this is pretty low heat, so it shouldn't be frying off the garlic. And now I'm gonna add my onion. And then you can add in herbs. You could add in sage. I say any poultry herbs would be pretty good in this. But I'm just gonna add parsley, oregano, and a little bit of thyme. And I'm using dried herbs for this. And I'm adding in about 1/2 of a teaspoon of each. You could also just add in the herb de Provence if you have that. Usually that comes in like a spice rack. And if you have that, it's kind of like similar to this. And we're just gonna kind of let that all bloom a bit in the butter. You could also use like olive oil if you wanted in this, but I would recommend saving if you have infused butter or infused olive oil. We're basically going to top this with the infused oil before we put it into the oven. So you want to just kind of let that cook and all those flavors marry into the butter a bit. And once the onions start to turn a little bit lighter in color, that's when we'll take it off the heat. This already smells so good. So you'll probably be noticing that just like garlic, onion, and herb smells always are amazing. Okay, so for me, the color is starting to change on these onions. You could, again, use any kind of onions you like. You could use shallots, which have a little bit more of an intense flavor. And I feel like the onion I used kind of has more of a shallot kind of flavor to it. Now I'm gonna add in those mushroom bits from the center of the mushroom and those little pieces of mushroom that broke off. You could, at this point, add in like a veggie sausage if you wanted something that has more of a kind of meaty texture. You could also add in like chickpeas if you want a little bit more fiber. But I'm gonna make this just kind of true to the mushroom, garlic, and onion, and keep all those flavors pretty simple. But you really could use this simplistic base and dress it up a bunch of different ways. Okay, and those are gonna cook fairly quickly. Plus, we're still putting this in the oven, so they don't need to cook for very long. So now I'm gonna add a cup of breadcrumbs and bread ends, just like stuffing. So I have in the ingredients, you can use stuffing mixture, breadcrumbs, bread, like stale bread that you have. You could also use rice or quinoa if you don't eat bread. These can easily be gluten-free. And this will very quickly soak up all that butter, which is totally fine. And you'll see that some of the bread is still kind of dry, and that's where this broth is gonna come in. And I'm just gonna add in, I think I added about half a cup of broth. I would say for every cup and a half of breadcrumbs, a half a cup of veggie broth or veggie bouillon is a good call. And then if it looks too like soggy, just add in some more breadcrumbs or more bread. Because this is kind of like a stuffing. Okay. And you want the texture to kind of be like stuffing, so it's gonna still be kind of moist. And I'm gonna turn the heat off now. And then this will cook a little bit longer in the pan. But I have this vegan mozzarella that I'm gonna dice up and add into the stuffing mixture. So it'll melt a little bit, but that's fine. We're gonna add it all into the mushrooms and it'll be perfect. And then our oven is preheated. So we're just about ready to go. Okay. And vegan cheese doesn't melt as quickly as dairy cheese. So it can be a little bit forgiving if you're adding it still on the heat. Ooh, it smells so good. These are gonna be super cheesy, which is fine with me. You could save some of this and sprinkle it on the top, but I kind of want it all in the filling of the mushrooms. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna take my handy little scoop that I use for cookies and pretty much everything else, and just scoop into the middle of the mushrooms. If it falls out, it's totally okay. These don't have to be perfect because, you know, everything in nature is not perfect. So it's totally fine. You could also, if you wanted to be real extra, you could bread and fry the mushroom bottoms before you like add a stuffing in. You could really go all out, but again, this is like the simple version. And then these are gonna be, we still have stuffing, that's okay. We're just gonna top right on in there, because it's all gonna bake together and be delicious. Okay, so now we have these mushrooms all topped, and we're gonna take a little bit of herb butter and just drizzle it over the top. And I mentioned in the recipe or in the ingredients list that you can also do this with zucchini if you don't like mushroom, where you would just make kind of like little zucchini boats, put the same filling in there. If you eat dairy cheese, use dairy cheese. If you eat non-dairy cheese, I used Violife, but I really love the Follow Your Heart Parmesan. I think that's really good vegan cheeses to add to this dish. So now I'm gonna put some foil over it and bake it for about 12 to 15 minutes, keeping an eye on it. And we're just gonna let everything get melty and gooey and delicious. And that'll go in the oven. Okay, now let's get started on our cocktail. So this is a little bit of infused chocolate sauce that I make using infused coconut oil because it acts almost like a chocolate shell. So I add 1 teaspoon of infused coconut oil to about a cup of chocolate chips, and it makes a really good chocolate sauce. The recipe is up on the Patreon. It's also in my ebook, but also it's just very simple. You can just add coconut oil until it has the consistency you like. And then some red sprinkles. So we're really just gonna run it through the infused chocolate. You could also just use infused chocolate and add a little bit of coconut oil to that chocolate if you go to a dispensary to get your infused goods. So then it gives you this cute little rim. And then that's infused. You could also make a warm drink with your infused coconut oil chocolate, but you know, anything that's infused with oil, you are gonna have it kind of float to the top. So just be prepared for that. But it's not such a bad thing. You know, like people have bulletproof coffee that has butter in it, things like that. I think that the flavor can be really nice and rich. You could also make like hot buttered rum and things like that with a coconut oil or butter that's infused. So you can still use oils and butters to make drinks, but for this cold cocktail, we want to have just on the rim. And this is a great way for people to kind of choose their own adventure when it comes to how much infusion they take. Okay, so then we are going to add some chocolate sauce to the cup. And you can use a wine glass, a martini glass. I'm just gonna kind of make a little drizzle on the bottom there. And then we're gonna take our shaker and add some ice. Add a little ice into our shaker. And then you wanna add 2 ounces of vodka. You could also do 1 ounce and just kind of supplement. So I'm gonna do 1, 2. And then I'm using a non-dairy creamer and I'm gonna add 2 ounces of non-dairy creamer. If this is a little sweet for you, you could just supplement any of the sweetener or anything else with water or like almond milk or other non-dairy milk. And then you want to add like an ounce of almond milk, soy milk, or any other non-dairy milk to the mixture. And I'm going to add an ounce of just regular almond milk. So this is kind of like a White Russian chocolate version. You give that a shake and the ice is gonna cool it down. We'll let that sit a minute while we make our strawberry garnish for the rim. And we just want to make a little line that doesn't go all the way through the center, so we can add that to the edge of our glass. And then we just pour from our cocktail strainer. And then we give that a mix in the glass. You could also add more chocolate sauce to this shaker and give that all a shake. Let me add that back in there and give it a better shake. Okay, that's better. Now, make sure we don't lose the cap. Yum. Mmm. That is tasty. It's almost like a mudslide. You could probably make that blended as well, and it would be very good. Cheers. This is so good. Yum. I just took the foil off of the mushrooms. It's been about 15 minutes. So I put them back in the oven and I'm gonna bake them for another 5 to 10 minutes or until the vegan cheese melts. This could take a little while because vegan cheese takes a little while to melt. Okay, so our mushrooms are done. And I'm just gonna add them to the plate. If you have fresh herbs like parsley or basil or even chives, you could put them on top. But I'm just gonna dish these right out. And these can be an appetizer or their own, like a side dish. If you do this stuffed portobellos, those are a great main, honestly. They're so good. And you could also serve this with a little like marinara sauce on the side. So I'm just gonna kind of plate it up like that. It's very cheesy. Oh, it smells so good. So we have our chocolate martini, and let's get these in the picture. And then our mushrooms, and I just want to show you how cheesy these mushrooms turned out. Ooh. I mean, look at that. They smell so good. Okay, so that is everything. We infused this on the rim. This got a drizzle halfway through baking. So we didn't cook out the cannabinoids on either of these dishes, and they should be pretty close to whatever cannabinoids you put in them. So if you have 10 milligrams of tincture or infused oil on the rim, you're not cooking it off. And if you have 10 milligrams per tablespoon for this, you can just drizzle it over, and you can always add a little bit more because the herbaceous flavor of the infused oil or butter really goes with this dish super well. And again, you can add more herbs if you want to add a little bit more to that flavor and add a little bit more green to the energy. But yeah, I hope you all have a great Valentine's Day and enjoy making these dishes. I think these are better than just for Valentine's Day. You can have them anytime and they're delightful. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And I will see you later this month for our second class.